This is Daniel Poppy, host of How to Write Good. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hi, this is Emily.
This is Lindsay.
And this is Elizabeth,
co-hosts of Beauties and Headcanons here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Once you are done with this episode, we hope you'll come check out our show, Beauties and Headcanons, where we talk nerdy to you about fandoms, fan fiction, and all pop culture for nerds that you can think of. A new show comes out every Friday.
Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Beauties and Headcanons. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Throughout history, the course of sports has been shaped by one thing: the fans.
From the moments you never dreamed of.
Bobby Womack has saved the USA's life in this World Cup. Hall, the runner, loose ball, it's good. Gonzaga, the flipper still fits.
To the moments that still give you nightmares.
Behind the bag, it gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it. He's in. Patriots win the Super Bowl. Brady has his fifth.
Through the good and the bad, fans have helped change the games we watch and the players we love.
They may not be the most logical people.
You are a factory of sadness. I'll see you Sunday.
But they know their teams better than anybody.
They'll blow in the ninth.
You may not always see them, but you know where to find them.
After all, there's nothing quite like the view from the cheap seats.
Broadcasting as part of the Public House Media Network.
Grab a chair and enjoy all there is in
the cheap seats.
Oh my God, the stupidity is palpable. The idiocracy, the dumb, the just moronic. Are there other words for stupid? Like, what else is there?
I'm just angry. Just don't talk to me.
It's not a good way to start your week, but we're going to do it here anyway in the cheap seats on this Monday, October 8th, 2018. Christian Heimall, John Lauder here with you, as always, presented by Squadcast.fm as part of the Public House Media Network. You clicked on the show, so you know we're going to talk football because, well, it's October, so of course we're going to talk football. And yes, it is dumb for different reasons. I mean, at the collegiate level, I'm happy, even though, John thinks football is dumb on the collegiate level because Notre Dame is going to the college football playoff, clearly. At this point. Yeah. And then we're both upset about the NFL because, let's be honest, Mason Crosby and the New York Giants. That's all we're really going to say there.
That's it. That's all you need. That's all you need. God, he's...
Yeah, we're going to get into all that a little bit later on. We're also going to get to our poll question, which you can vote on, by the way, at the Cheap Seats by Public House Media on Facebook. Be sure to head over there, check it out. You can listen to past episodes there. You can also join our Pick'em League, which I think, weirdly enough, John, I steered into the curve and went full stupid on my picks this week, so I think I'm doing okay. I'm not sure. We'll have to check in as we get a little bit closer.
Yeah, I was actually in second place as of last week.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just gotten even a little bit weirder and a little bit dumber. So, but we're going to get into that. Plus our good or bad mojo, whichever one you think it might be, is going to be coming up in a little bit. But, John, we begin today. It's the topic of the sports world and has been for about 36 hours now. If you were like myself and you stayed up until the wee hours of the morning on Sunday on the East Coast watching UFC 229 billed as the greatest fight in UFC history, you saw a complete and total dismantling of one of the greatest fighters of all time, and then you saw a complete and total dismantling of the sport itself. It was absolutely horrendous. It was disgraceful. It was a shame to watch. And John, I know that you don't watch MMA, but you've seen some of the headlines. You've seen some of the pictures. Yes. I don't know how much of the video you've seen, but from a person who doesn't watch MMA, before I get into it and let people know who maybe haven't seen it, haven't been on social media, don't care, before I let everybody know what happened, your initial reaction when you read some of the headlines.
Well, look, as everybody knows, I am not the biggest fight guy, and I've never really had great thoughts about the MMA in general. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. The whole thing is just the bottom line is you are dealing with, I want to be really careful with how I say this, sort of subhuman almost, sort of.
Okay.
cretinous individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, and look, that may come off as, sort of mean and degrading, but, these are not your normal everyday human beings walking up and down the street. Can we agree with that?
Yeah, no, definitely. These are guys who enjoy getting punched in the face and like punching other people in the face.
Correct. So therefore, this did not shock me. Now, I know that this doesn't happen often. It doesn't really happen at all to this level and to this degree. But also, didn't, Conor McGregor throw a bunch of crap at a bus and go insane and psychopathic? So to me, it's like, it's shocking, but it's not, because the MMA is kind of a disaster show. And I feel bad for those of you like yourself, some of our other, fellow Hofstra grads like Cobb Giesman, people that are really dedicated to the MMA, actually know and understand it and know what they're talking about. So coming out of my mouth, you can take it with a grain of salt, because I don't watch, and I thoroughly admit to that. But reading the headlines, I didn't see any video, but I've looked at some headlines, read some stories. It's shocking, but it's not, because to me, the MMA, at its core, yes, it's great, intense, amazing fighters, but it's also got a lot of psychopaths. And when you have crazy people, you're going to get crazy stuff. So I feel like Dana White has done a lot of this to himself.
Oh my God,
I feel right, exactly. So I feel like Dana White, yes, brilliant coming up with the UFC, brilliant getting it to where it is, but he's also making his own bed and sleeping in it.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, and for those of you who haven't had a chance to really see, I'm just going to take you through what happened Saturday night. So Saturday night, Khabib Nurmagomedov, pound for pound considered one of the best fighters currently in the game. He's the reigning, defending 26-0 in his career, the lightweight champion of the UFC, fighting Conor McGregor. McGregor's first MMA fight in almost 2 years. Again, he hasn't fought since November of 2016. Went off, of course, had the cluster bleep with Floyd Mayweather last summer. He returns now to go after the belt that he had. It was taken away from him because he wasn't going to defend it. So these guys coming in and fighting, it was billed as the best fight. I personally thought that Khabib was going to win. I didn't think Khabib was going to be as dominant as he was. And he truly, truly disgraced Conor McGregor. And listen, I know a lot of people, there are people who know the game a lot better than me, but watching it as someone who has for the last 12 years, someone who did wrestle at one point in his life and understands that side of MMA, it was a complete dismantling. It was a true dominant event of Khabib Nurmagomedov. It was brilliant. It was beautiful. It was amazing to watch. And when he submitted Conor in the fourth round and forced Conor to tap out, it was electric. It was awesome. And then Khabib stands up over Conor for a couple of extra seconds. It looked almost, he either yelled at Conor or spit on Conor. Either way, one of them is much worse than the other, but either way, not good. He then points over at Conor McGregor's corner, is yelling at Dylan Dennis, one of the coaches of Conor McGregor, throws his mouthpiece in that direction. The two are jarring back and forth. Khabib hops the fence of the octagon, jumps into the crowd to attack Dylan Dennis. McGregor then tries to scale the fence to go and defend his coach. At that point, one of Khabib's guys is on the fence as well. Conor starts throwing punches at him, and then out of nowhere, two of Khabib's teammates come out of the crowd into the octagon, sucker punch Conor McGregor. All hell breaks loose. You've got the entire Las Vegas Police Department and the entire security department of the T-Mobile Arena in the octagon, and it was just absolutely chaotic and insane. John, the only way to describe it, and so many people have, it was the Malice at the Palace, UFC style. It was ridiculous. It was unnecessary. It was scary, and it was absolutely atrocious and disgraceful. After all this gets settled, after everything gets cleared out, they escort McGregor out. They escort Khabib out. 3 of Khabib's teammates get placed under arrest. Conor McGregor does not press charges, so they are now released. Khabib, at this time, is still the champion. His purse, his winnings from the fight, are being held by the Nevada State Athletic Commission because they are conducting an investigation. The videos of everything. The UFC doesn't even have the videos to be able to disperse at their own leisure. The Athletic Commission has this because they're conducting an investigation to see a couple of different things. Number one, who gets the biggest suspension? Who gets the biggest fine? Who may get banned for life from fighting in the state of Nevada? They may revoke licenses here. Not only that, but Dana White in the post-fight press conference was wondering if Khabib's teammates and Khabib himself, because they're from Dagestan over in Russia, wondering if their visas are going to get renewed, if they're ever going to be allowed back in the country to fight again. This is going to become an international nightmare for the UFC, And you're 100% right, John, and I'll explain this as well. This has been a mistake of Dana White's own doing. This really has. Because, and I know a lot of people are blaming Khabib, and I know a lot of people are saying, Conor McGregor, the belt should be stripped from Khabib. Well, guess what? Conor McGregor in 2011, if I remember correctly, let me look at this. 2017, excuse me, just a year ago. Bellator 187, which is a different, I'm trying to think of the word, a different league of mixed martial arts. One of Conor's teammates wins. Conor hops over the fence, smacks a referee in the face in 2017. Doesn't get suspended, throws, as you mentioned earlier, a dolly at a bus, injures 2 people in Brooklyn, faces criminal charges, pleads guilty, doesn't get suspended. So Dana White can't do anything because he didn't do anything then. He can't do anything now. And what made this even worse, John, and this is the part that is not going to get talked about as much as it should, the promotion leading up to the fight included a lot of Conor McGregor and his team, Dylan Danis, who Khabib Nurmagomedov went after following his victory, using a lot of ethnic, cultural, racial, religious slurs and insults hurled in Khabib's way. And that is the promotion that the UFC put together was not centered around it, but included it. And that only stoked the fire to what happened last night. So as much as you can blame Khabib, blame Conor for what he did, Dana White has, as you said, made his bed, and he now has to lay in it.
Yeah, and, obviously you described it very well. The MMA is a disaster because they allow too much that you just can't be allowing. Now, look, I know it's fighting. It's not school. Okay, I get that. Certain things have to you have to let them slide because these guys are volatile personalities. But, I mean, look, this guy probably should have his green card revoked. Don't let him back. Who cares? I mean, it doesn't affect me.
It's
It's
so sad, though, because you literally, like, Khabib is, and this is the only time this has ever happened in his career. He is, in my opinion, by far the most talented fighter currently in mixed martial arts. And
but that's all well and good. Stop attacking people after fights. I don't care how good you are.
And I know, and I understand that. But the problem is Dana White, because he didn't do anything to Conor McGregor when he threw a freaking dolly through a bus and injured 2 people.
I agree. He's terrible.
He didn't do anything to Conor McGregor. He can't do anything to Khabib. Now, it's out of his hands because it's the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and potentially they may never let him fight in the state of Nevada again. They may, force the U.S. government's hand in terms of visa renewal. But Dana White is a big problem of this. And I have felt for a long time that Dana has stopped caring about the UFC. He has made his millions, and he doesn't care anymore because he's putting fights together that he thinks are going to be big pay-per-view buys as opposed to actually good fights. So you've been seeing really bad pay-per-views over the last 2-3 years instead of seeing great fights, maybe because the guy's name isn't. Like, for instance, George St. Pierre coming back for a title shot after a 4-year hiatus last year. That was atrocious. That should have never happened. But it's GSP, one of the biggest names in the sport. It's going to get pay-per-view buys. So Dana says, to hell with actual competition, to hell with the true MMA fans. I'm going to, pander to the, and again, I got to be careful with saying this, but I'm going to pander to the quote-unquote fringe fans who only see the brash-talking, monkey-walking Conor McGregor as opposed to an actually good, talented fighter who maybe deserves that shot, like a Tony Ferguson or Anthony Pettis, who were in the co-main event and put on a brilliant fight. It really was. Like, it bothered me. And I was talking to people yesterday on Sunday about this. And I honest to God, some of them were saying, how much do you think this is staged? And I said, either way, I'm probably done watching the UFC as a fan. Because if it was staged, that proves that Dana White does not care about his fans. He has insulted his fans by turning this into a glorified WWE event. Or number two, he can't do anything to Khabib because he didn't do anything to Conor, so he's basically condoning everything that happened on Saturday night. Either way, it bothers me to say this because we went to college at Hofstra University with Chris Weidman, who defeated the greatest of all time, Anderson Silva, twice. Twice he beat him for the belt. And I may never watch another UFC fight again because it was just embarrassing to watch what happened on Saturday night. And Dana White, again, we're all blaming Khabib and his team, or we're throwing jarbs at Conor and his team because they stoked this. Dana White lit the fire. It merely was just had gasoline thrown on it by these two guys.
You're listening to the Cheap Seats here on the Public House Media Network, presented by Squadcast.fm. John Lauder, Christian Heimall with you. Going to move away from MMA because Christian's head's going to explode, and I really have nothing to say in return. So we're going to move to the MLB playoffs. The National League is, pretty much wrapped up. The DS is close enough at this point, whereas things a little bit closer, it seems, in the AL. The Brewers get the sweep of the Rockies. Brewers looking
oh my God, they look so good.
They are looking
They look
real
so good. But today you've got two big game threes. Cleveland trying to hold off elimination, and then the Red Sox trying not to embarrass themselves. So,
yeah, that Yankee Red Sox series there, Captain Sweat, that's been interesting.
But what did I say? What have I said for 2 weeks? I've been concerned about this team. I really have. I've just been concerned about this Red Sox team, and David Price proved it, and the bullpen proved it.
Yeah. All right. What? David Price. Why are we giving this guy so much money?
Because in 2010, whatever it was, when he won the Cy Young, I got to look back at the numbers. 2015, I can't remember. Like, they just thought he was going to be amazing, even though he never pitched well in the postseason.
Yeah, well, in 2010,
the Red Sox had a chance to go get Justin Verlander in free agency.
Yes.
And they went with David Price instead because he was a lefty.
Well, they're dumb.
Oh my God! And David Price is he's got a player option this offseason. We got to go to break, so otherwise I'm gonna lose my freaking mind. I'm gonna punch something.
well, real quick, Milwaukee slides right through.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting with the Yankees and the Red Sox. You can follow Christian on Twitter for that at Chris Heimall. And then, it looks like the Astros having a pretty easy time. But, yeah, go ahead. Go to break because I'm worried about you now.
No, the Astros will be fun today because, I'm going to get into it. It's my bad mojo is going to be around this playoff series. It might not be Red Sox Yankees, but yes. But I'll get to that later in the show.
Yeah, we'll talk more then. Go ahead.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk college football. My Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Yeah, you have to have that.
Here they come into the top four, maybe, potentially. Hopefully, who knows? Oklahoma, their chance is completely gone. We'll find out. We'll also get to our poll question coming up. You're in the Cheap Seats here on the Public House Media Network, presented by Squadcast.fm.
This is Sam Kirby, host of Cinema Stories here on Public House Media. Thank you for tuning into the following broadcast here on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Cinema Stories, where we talk about movie and TV news and reviews, and maybe, just maybe, we'll learn a little something about ourselves. If not, then maybe I made you laugh a couple of times. I don't know. New episodes air bi-weekly on Tuesdays. Thanks again for checking out the totally spectacular following broadcast here on Public House Media.
How's it going, everybody? This is Keith.
And Katie, host of Coffee with Keith and Katie, here on Public House Media.
Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. When you're done here, I hope you'll check out our show, Coffee with Keith and Katie,
where we talk about our lives and relationship over a cup of coffee.
A new episode airs on Facebook Live every Monday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Coffee with Keith and Katie.
Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Because when I think Roughing the Passer, I think Elton John. John Lauder and Christian Heimall with you inside the Cheap Seats on the Public House Media Network. I know the song says Saturday night's all right for fighting, but it's actually Monday morning, so Christian's trying to confuse you. He doesn't really understand how calendars work. So we're going to get into some college football right now. Now, he is very happy, punchy but happy, that Notre Dame managed to get themselves another win, and it's fantastic because everybody else is just, pooping themselves.
And it's not even it wasn't even just a win. Like, it was a runaway win. Like, it was close there, but then they just pulled away from Virginia Tech on the road.
Yeah, well, and you know what? But, Virginia Tech lost Old Dominion, so who knows if they're any good.
That's true. They did lose Old Dominion.
They did. But, look, huge shock, I know, that Alabama won. I couldn't believe it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Tua had 1,000 yards passing on only 10 attempts, so that was great. The Georgia Jake Fromm's 41-13 win over Vanderbilt, not a huge surprise there.
Mm-hmm.
And Ohio State and Clemson get wins. I mean, basically, at this point, I know you love your Notre Dame Fighting Irish, But I really can't see how any of these three teams don't make it in unless they lose 2 games.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, there's a reason why I think Notre Dame is – I don't want to – if Notre Dame wins out, they are in the college football playoff for one reason and one reason only. Alabama or Georgia has to lose in the SEC title game. Has to.
Yeah, but if one of them loses by less than 5 points, how can you keep them out? They're both better than Notre Dame.
But again, and I know you hate me saying this, it's the R word, ratings. I know you hate me saying that, but
I know, but okay. And I understand Notre Dame would get a lot of good ratings because, touchdown Jesus, lots of goal licks, whatever. But, it's not like Georgia is, Southwest Mississippi A&M.
No, I agree. Listen, if this is from a Notre Dame standpoint, I would much rather see Bama and Georgia in the semifinal after or in the championship game potentially after an SEC title game than I would want to see Notre Dame get obliterated by Alabama like they did in the national title game a few years ago.
That's true. Well said. Now, I really wish, they scheduled all these ACC teams. Why couldn't you have scheduled Clemson? Because
I know.
they're the team in the top 4, despite the fact that they have like 75 defensive linemen going to the NFL and Trevor Lawrence is really good and has great hair. They're the team out of the top 4 that I'm the least confident deserves to be there. And if Notre Dame could have played them and beaten them, we don't have to worry about this. It's all irrelevant.
Right. No, agreed. So now the question is the loss by Oklahoma, who, by the way, fired defensive coordinator Mike Stoops after they gave up the most points ever in the Red River rivalry or Red River Showdown, 48 points to Texas. And that's after giving up 33 to Baylor a couple of weeks ago. Is West Virginia, do they really, realistically, if West Virginia runs the table, wins the Big 12, do they have a shot potentially? Because now that's going to be the question now. You've got West Virginia potentially, an undefeated Big 12 champion West Virginia, or an undefeated Notre Dame, or a one-loss Georgia/Alabama.
Well, first of all, remember when we all had Tom Herman fired?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's that.
Okay, Texas, they're 8th now, or 9th in the country, so that's impressive. I don't think Oklahoma's done simply because I think they're going to beat West Virginia. I think they're still the best team in the Big 12. I don't think the Big 12 gets a team now because Oklahoma lost. Because West Virginia is not as good as Oklahoma. Their defense isn't that good. Now, look, Oklahoma's defense has been giving up a lot of points recently as well.
God, terrible.
I think Oklahoma losing basically guarantees now that the Big 12 does not get a team in. Because, I cannot see West Virginia going undefeated. And even if they do, they're not going to be able to leapfrog Notre Dame. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And I do wonder this. I mean, I hate saying it too, again, because as a college football fan, as much as I'm a Notre Dame fan, I'm a college football fan first and foremost. The ratings, it just kind of blinds people. Notre Dame it's like the Yankees. It kind of blinds people. Whether the Yankees are good or not, it's the Yankees. Or for instance, it's interesting. As dumb as Mike Florio may be sometimes with some of his NFL picks, the Ravens winning the Super Bowl this year, which we'll get to in a little bit, he does have this point that he continues to make of we get blinded by the jersey, by the logo. We sit there and go, the Browns, they're a better team than some of the teams that they're going to play, but they're the Browns, so we pick them to lose. Notre Dame may not be one of the top 4 teams in the country, but it's Notre Dame, so we put them in. We get blinded by this stuff, and as much as I love it as a Notre Dame fan, it kind of bothers me because, again, we're going to have this great debate over, what happens if Penn State beats Ohio State in a Big Ten? What happens if Washington, wins the Pac-12? What happens if Texas wins the Big 12? What happens with all of this stuff that could potentially bring a number of different players into the college football playoff? But Notre Dame's undefeated, and it's Notre Dame.
Right. And so since you, for some weird reason, are taking, sort of shots, I'm going to be actually positive for Notre Dame. What a weird show this is.
Football's dumb, John.
Yeah, football is dumb. We know that. I actually think that this is just a better Notre Dame team. So I think this year we're not as much blinded by the jersey as we've been in the past. That Notre Dame team that got destroyed by Alabama, that team did not deserve to be in the national championship game. I'm sorry. I don't care if they were undefeated. Their schedule was garbage. Okay? Now, look, is Notre Dame's schedule this year amazing? No. But Michigan is a good team. They're definitely worthy of a top 15 spot.
Mm-hmm.
Stanford, I still think, is the best team in the Pac-12. I think they're better than Washington. I do. I know most people probably don't. And even though Virginia Tech did lose to Old Dominion, I still believe they're a top 25 team. And look, Syracuse has had a good season. You still have USC at the end. It's not like they're playing Alabama A&M or something. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they have Power 5 teams throughout the entire schedule. So if they go undefeated the way they've been playing, they do deserve to be in the college football playoff. However, it is going to be hard to leave Georgia out. I'm telling you right now, if by some miracle reason Alabama loses, they're going to the playoff anyway.
Oh, of course.
Because they've been so ridiculously dominant that you cannot put Notre Dame in over Alabama. Now, Georgia,
the difference is, though, they're actually playing like Southwestern Missouri A&M Technical Institute. So
that's true.
That is the kind of the difference. But
that's
I mean,
true.
and again, this Notre Dame team honestly is going to is getting better as the season goes on, because Ian Book is finding a rhythm with a guy like Miles Boykin. Dexter Williams is finally back from being healthy, and that defense is a lot better than I think most people anticipated. So this Notre Dame team is going, as long as they run the table, they will be in the college football playoff, because I think you are a little right there, John, and I'm glad that someone else is saying it, not me, that we may not be as blinded by the jersey, but again, I wonder what's going to happen with the loser of the SEC championship game. I really do, because it's going to come down to that. The one-loss SEC champion, or non-champion, and undefeated Notre Dame. That's what it's going to come down to.
For sure. You're in the cheap seats here on the Public House Media Network. John Lauder, Christian Heimall with you on a Monday, October 8th, 2018. Let's get to our poll question now, which is always on the Cheap Seats Facebook page, the Cheap Seats by Public House Media. You should go there, check it out, answer the poll question. More likely that Alabama wins the national championship or that Tua wins the Heisman. I'm not going to say his last name because I'm not in the mood. But yeah, he has 18 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, leads the nation in QBR, which is rare that a Power 5 quarterback does that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a 98.5 adjusted quarterback rating. His other rating, I don't even know how you would quantify that. His passer rating is 258.4, which is absurd.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, it just means he's really good at football. He has 1,500 yards passing, 75 completion percentage. He's averaging 15 yards a pass. It takes Eli Manning 7 attempts to get to 15 yards, okay?
That's very true, it does.
18 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and I still don't think he's going to win the Heisman unless he starts playing more. He only had 13 attempts against Arkansas. Now, granted, it was
I know.
yards. He averaged 25 yards a pass. I don't understand. This isn't. They got rid of the NFL PlayStation game. I don't understand what is happening.
John, Tua has led the Crimson Tide to a touchdown on 31 of 44 drives this year.
Oh, so just give him the Heisman anyway, then you're probably right.
That's ridiculous. Now, listen, the reason why I want to side with you is because I think Dwayne Haskins has been that much better, in my opinion. I love Kyler Murray. I really do. 71% completion percentage, 21 total touchdowns, 377 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns as well. He's been absolutely dominant, even though they lost this past weekend. Dwayne Haskins, almost 2,000 passing yards, 25 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, 73% completion percentage, and he's actually played most, if not all, of the games. And by all of the game, I mean he's actually played after halftime. So I want so bad to agree with you that I think it's more likely that Alabama wins the national championship, but this is a show where it's built off arguments. So I'm going to disagree with you simply because of the premise of this show.
Christian, are you playing devil's advocate?
Oh, my God, I'm playing devil's advocate. And there are people in New York screaming their heads off right now. There are people on the number one most popular radio station, sports talk radio station in the world, that are just screaming their heads off at me right now. But anyway, so I do think it is more likely that Tua wins the Heisman just because his numbers have been so good, and he plays on the team that is going to get the most hype outside of Notre Dame. And because he's got the coach in Nick Saban. I mean, I don't know how many people who don't realistically and religiously follow college football. Like, I mean, Dabo Swinney, Lincoln Riley, but Lincoln Riley because of Coach Stoops. I mean, how many people do you think, if you gave them the 4 coaches in the top 4, how many do you think actually get Georgia's head coach?
No.
Yeah.
Nobody.
So, I mean, how many do you think actually know that Will Greer plays at West Virginia? Because nobody's seen West Virginia play.
Most people know his brother's better. They have like 1 billion Instagram followers.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So I'm going to go with Tua just because I think he's going to be, because he's doing these numbers without playing a full game. Once he actually does start doing that, it's going to be unnecessary. And so I think that the stats will just be there. They're video game-like numbers, and he plays on the team that gets the most coverage because they're the best team in the country. So now, that being said, both are probably going to happen. So,
real quick before we go to break, we're 6 weeks in.
Yeah.
One lost team with the best chance to make it.
Ooh.
Wow. Right now. Not later, now.
Right now.
Right now.
I'm going to go Texas. Just because I think they've ever since that opening week loss to Maryland, something has clicked, and the way they played against. Now I know Oklahoma's got a bad defense, and it's the Big 12, and not many teams play defense very well. I'm going to go Texas just because they have that edge over. I would say Oklahoma if their one loss wasn't to a conference opponent.
I've got a bit of a steamy hot take for you here.
Okay, you're going to go Florida.
I'm going to say Florida.
Ooh.
Okay.
I like
now
it.
Look. Is it going to happen? I highly doubt it, okay? But you look at the rest of their schedule. Obviously, they're in the SEC. We all know that. They just beat LSU. Okay, they still have Georgia at home, not on the road, so in the swamp, okay? And then if they get to the SEC title game, they've got to play, the Alabama Fighting Tuas. So, and other than Georgia, the rest of their schedule is easy. So I'm going to give you the Gators, actually. Do you think it'll happen? No. But they could really throw a wrench into things if they could beat Georgia in a couple of weeks.
I like that a lot. That's going to be fun. I like it big time.
All right, so we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we both hate pro football right now. We hate it, loathe it.
We get to talk about my homies. So
that's right, my homies. Oh my God! And I've got a stat from that one. Oh, you know what? Football's the worst. When we get back, we'll talk pro football. It's a disaster. Whatever. We love train wrecks on this show. I'm John. He's Christian. It's the Cheap Seats. You know the deal. We're on the Public House Media Network, presented by Squadcast.fm.
This is Ryan Pierce, host of Completely Serious here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Completely Serious, where we talk about sports and have fun with great guests. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Completely Serious. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
I'm the Greg.
And I am Dave Show.
We host the Greg and Dave Show on Public House Media.
Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out our show, The Greg and Dave Show, where we talk about strange, bizarre, and sometimes just downright quirky news stories that you may not have heard about.
A new show comes out every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. And hey, thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Welcome back in the Cheap Seats. Christian Heimall, John Lauder here with you. We are presented every single week by Squadcast.fm. If you want to learn how to do a podcast or maybe make one of your own, head on over there. Squadcast.fm has all the tools for you to be able to do so. You can follow John and I on social media if you want. I'm at Chris Heimall, ChrishEimall, John at JON_LAUDER. Don't forget to head to the Cheap Seats by Public House Media on Facebook. Vote on the poll question. More likely to happen, Alabama wins a national title or Tua wins the Heisman Trophy. I mean, let's be honest. Both are probably going to happen, but for the sake of argument, we'll see how people vote there. Be kind of fun. All right. John, to the NFL where, again, more just stupid. I mean, this is just so dumb. I don't understand this. The Jets went out and wiped the floor with the Broncos. The Giants had every opportunity to beat the Panthers, gave it to them 3 different times. The Bengals are 4-1. The Browns beat the Ravens. Mason Crosby cost me like 7 million fantasy points. And the Bills also won. Like, what's going on?
I'm very mad at just football. Okay. So let's just do a quick roundabout of how stupid this league is.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, the Jets averaged 8.5 yards a carry on 38 carries, not 5 carries, 38. Isaiah Crowell had 7,000 rushing yards, and that's what happened.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, Cincinnati's 4-1, and their coach has been there like 100 years, and I hate the Bengals so much. I can't even take it. Okay, Pittsburgh and Atlanta. Pittsburgh somehow managed to actually score more than 30 points and not give up 30 points. So I don't know what's going on there. The Giants are a train wreck and should be ashamed of themselves. Okay, they let Graham Gano hit like a 75-yard field goal today. All right, so this Chiefs game particularly bothers me. Okay, so
what do you got?
Mahomes with the win today, tremendous. All right, Blake Bortles had more fantasy points than Patrick Mahomes today.
Wait, no, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Like what?
He had
like, don't get me, like I have Pat Mahomes on my fantasy team, so I know how many points he got. But like, why would anybody? What?
Yeah, because Blake Bortles actually threw a touchdown pass and had 430 yards.
Oh my God, that's brutal.
Yeah,
absolutely brutal.
Yes, brutal. Tennessee lost to Buffalo. Mike Vrabel, fire him. I don't even care what he's done so far this year. He's got to go. All right. Is Cleveland going to go to overtime in every single game, Christian? Should we just start the games in overtime to make it easier on them?
It's possible.
Because it feels like it's probably easier for Hugh Jackson. I think he's confused by the whole 4 quarters thing.
Probably.
Because I'm pretty sure they've played 3 overtime games now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you're right.
So they could be 1-1-3.
Yeah. Which funny would it be if they like made the wild card because they had 3 ties?
Yeah, well, somebody in the NFL offices, their head would have exploded and their calculator would have burned. But yeah, they managed to beat the Ravens, who only could score 9 points. Florio, you're a moron.
Yeah, I don't get it.
So anyway, the Chargers are actually the team I'm most interested in right now. They're 3-2. I know that the Mahomes are super good, but I really like the Chargers. Phillip Rivers is having a fantastic season, very under the radar because, of course, he's in the division with Patrick Mahomes. They have an excellent defense. Man, are the Raiders terrible. But they're the team I'm most impressed with, and the team I'm most disappointed in is definitely the Titans. How do you lose to Buffalo? I mean, I know the Vikings did it too, but, Tennessee, my God. The Titans just beat the Eagles.
I know.
The
on a
Eagles
last-second miracle.
Yeah.
But
and Arizona won. The Rams almost lost to Russell Wilson and a bunch of homeless people. I mean, I just don't understand it.
It's been a very weird. We're 5 weeks in, and this has been one of the strangest NFL seasons I can remember.
The Bills won, and Josh Allen's quarterback rating was 35.
Yeah, I know. Watching that, I watched a lot of that game for whatever. I have no idea why. I have no idea why, but I was transfixed by this game because Josh Allen doesn't seem to understand that the way you stay in this game for a very long time is to not dive headfirst into the middle of the linebacking core. He doesn't understand that, yet it works and they win games. But here's part of my issue with this past week. So, number one, you've got a Dolphins team that was 3-0, got absolutely steamrolled by the Patriots, go up 17-0 on the Bengals, and then give up 27 straight to lose that game on the road. The Bengals, who they fire their coach, they don't fire their coach, he retires, he unretires, they decide to move on, they don't move on. The Bengals are, we're forgetting how dysfunctional this front office is because they're 4-1 and leading an AFC North that has potentially three of the best players at their positions in Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, and the yet-to-arrive Le'Veon Bell, who, by the way, go out there, as you mentioned, and wipe the floor with Atlanta. What? How does this happen? And then not to mention, Mason Crosby missing 4 field goals. Kickers don't know what they're doing, even though Graham Gano did hit a 63-yarder. Steven Hauschka hits a 46-yarder to win the game. It's been a very weird season. John, the weirdest way, the only way I can explain this, the New York Giants losing. They scored more than 31 points for the first time since the regular season finale in 2015.
Yep.
They lose by 2 on a 63-yard field goal when, number one, Odell Beckham tries to throw a block on a punt, and it turns into a muff, which turns into a special teams touchdown for the Panthers. Number 2, it was a 4th and 1 that was not a first down, and the clock should have expired, and the Giants should have won that game. But here's the weird part, John. If the New Orleans Saints win tonight, the Giants are 2 games out of the division lead. How dumb is that?
Yeah, oh my God.
The Giants are 1-4, and if the Redskins lose, they are at the top of the division at 2-2.
Yeah.
What is this? The division with the defending Super Bowl champions, the Dallas Cowboys, who, again, continue to forget that the best way to win is to run the ball with Ezekiel Elliott. And I don't the NFC East is the epitome of how stupid the NFL has been this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what to say with that. Like, oh my God. I'm looking at this stuff and I just can't believe what I'm seeing.
Right.
Now, before we move on any further, let's go back to Thursday night and really quick kind of talk about this, because Brady, third player in NFL history with 500 touchdowns. We were all a little concerned about the Patriots at the start, but we kind of knew this was going to happen. As soon as they flip the calendar October, they kind of turn it on. Patriots get rolling again. Andrew Luck has been looking good, but again, in that AFC South, look at that division too. The AFC South, John, you've got the Titans leading it at 3-2. The Jags there at 3-2, who we haven't, they lost 9-6 a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Again, just this has been one of the weirdest things. So I guess my question to you then is, there are only 2 undefeated teams so far still left in the Rams and the Chiefs. And we talked a little bit about it last week, but which one are you more confident in 5 weeks in?
No, it's not even close. It's the Rams. I mean, their defense is so much better than Kansas City's. And don't give me Jacksonville only at 14 points. Jacksonville's offense is a disaster, okay? Yeah. They don't have Leonard Fournette. Blake Bortles threw 78 picks yesterday. No. The LA Rams, despite the fact that they gave up a bunch of points to Seattle, are still the best team in football. Seattle was at home, so I think that helped that situation considerably.
Oh, yeah.
One of my biggest issues right now in the NFL is that teams have just sort of forgotten how to run the football, excluding the Jets. Andrew Luck threw the ball 59 times.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Thursday. Now, granted, they were behind significantly. I get that. But, and I also know it's a passing league. Tom Brady threw the ball 44 times. Mm-hmm. But I really am tired of teams constantly throwing the ball more than they need to, okay? Mm-hmm. Look at my beloved Green Bay Packers today, all right? Now, they got down 24-0 because apparently they didn't realize that there was a first half of the game. They just sort of went through the motions, all good, whatever. Mm-hmm. Mason Crosby, time to retire. Let's get Baxter Colbert in there to kick a couple of field goals. Aaron Rodgers threw the ball 52 times.
Yep.
Do we not remember that his leg was nearly severed weeks ago, okay? Does he really need to throw the ball 52 times?
No, he doesn't.
They only ran the ball 20 times, and they ran it for almost 100 yards. Yeah. They were almost averaging 5 yards a carry. Now, I know they had to throw the ball more because they were down, but Matthew Stafford only threw the ball 26 times in this game, and they ran the ball 28 times. Now, granted, only got 94 yards, but Kerryon Johnson, 12 carries, 70 yards in this game. You look at that Jets game. Crowell, 219 yards. Mm-hmm. Got to get back to run the football a little bit. I know it's a passing league, but Dallas, what a waste of Ezekiel Elliott. What a waste.
Offensive line. You drafted that team to be built around the running game, and you're not utilizing it.
Yes.
I mean, look at even the Giants-Panthers game. Cam Newton threw the ball 35 times. The Panthers as a team ran the ball a total of 31 times. Christian McCaffrey, 17 carries for 58 yards. The Giants drafted Saquon Barkley because he was the best athlete and because they needed a playmaking running back. And he only had 15 carries for 48 yards.
Right.
He had 4 catches for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. But if you wanted a guy to catch passes, draft a wide receiver or maybe draft an offensive line to be able to throw the ball more.
And if you take out the 57-yarder from Odell Beckham, which was, a trick play.
He had 3 catches for...
Right, yeah, 24 yards.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean...
And then a couple of weeks ago, didn't he have 15 catches for 70 yards or something?
He had more catches than I think he had more catches than he had rushing yards a couple weeks ago.
Yes, because Eli Manning can't throw the ball more than 5 feet. So
because he doesn't have an offensive line to protect for more than 3 seconds. But anyway.
Right, exactly. That's true.
You're not wrong. And we're going to see it again tonight. We'll talk about it after the break. But we're going to see again the epitome of this NFL as a passing league, because you're going to have Drew Brees probably, most likely, definitely break the all-time passing yards record tonight. And you've got Alex Smith, who is just a gunslinger in general. So, you're going to continue to see that, even though we're finally going to see that two-headed monster in New Orleans of Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara again for the first time this year.
Yes, I mean, if they're not giving them a combined 30 carries, Sean Payton's lost his mind, because they need to run the ball, but, we'll see.
We'll see what happens. We're back in a little bit. We'll give you our Mojo Monday as well and our picks for Monday Night Football. We had a tie last week, a push. It was a clean push. So everybody is now like the Cleveland Browns. We all have a 1 in that third column. So whoop-de-doo. Here we go. We'll be right back. Wrap up shop on this Monday, Columbus Day, October 8th, here in the Cheap Seats on the Public House Media Network, presented by Squadcast.fm.
This is Daniel Poppy, host of How to Write Good here on Public House Media. I just want to thank you for listening to the following broadcast, brought to you by Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope that you'll come check out my show, How to Write Good, the writing show that is not about writing. A new show of How to Write Good comes out every Wednesday, so don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of How to Write Good. Again, thanks for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hi, this is Baxter Colburn, host of the Verse of the Day podcast here on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Verse of the Day, where we take a look at real-world experiences and applications to one Bible verse every Monday through Friday, as we get an idea of what it looks like to be a little bit better of a Christian and how we can make this world a better place, one verse at a time. I hope you'll join me every single Monday through Friday right here on Public House Media, and I hope you'll subscribe by going to Apple Podcasts or wherever you find good podcasts as well. Once again, thanks for tuning in to the following broadcast here on Public House Media.
Alrighty then, heading into Monday night, you got my Super Bowl champion, New Orleans Saints, and the Washington Redskins, who again have a chance to take a commanding 1.5 game lead in the NFC East. I don't understand
look at this guy with all the jokes.
I don't understand this division. I don't understand it.
Would you like me to illuminate? All the teams are terrible.
They're just.
But like, right now.
So, and I wonder this. Like, I wonder. We touched on this in the last segment. We know it's become much more of a passing league, and that has really hindered the defense, and even more so with this new roughing the passer penalty and all that stuff. I wonder how much of this is going to be similar to the NBA, where we've fallen in love with the 3. At some point, there's going to be a team that says, you know what? You can have your 3. I'm going to load up with big guys who are athletic enough and dominant enough down low and just beat you up on the glass. I wonder if there's going to be a team that eventually turns this cycle around and actually runs the football.
Yeah.
I don't, because it seems as though because the defenses are not allowed to really do anything anymore, and because it is all predicated on the pass, if that happens, I don't know. We'll see. So.
It's true.
All right, Monday Night Football, Saints on the road. Last check, the Saints are a 6-point road favorite over the Washington Redskins. ESPN's Football Power Index, for those of you who don't care about anything, 62% likelihood that the Saints come out victorious at home. 6-point favorites at home.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, are the Saints. Again, Drew Brees most likely going to break the all-time passing yardage record. Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram back together again for the first time. John, because of last week's push, you are 2-2-1. I am 3-1-1 on the season in Monday Night Football picks, so I'll let you take the floor here.
Now, real quick, you said the Saints were at home?
Saints are at home, yes.
Yes, I'll take the Saints.
Yeah, it's a no contest.
They're at home, so...
It's a no contest. So the Saints, Drew Brees is dominant. Alvin Kamara is a stud. He gets Mark Ingram in there as a two-headed monster. It's not even fair.
No, I mean, again, we really could have stopped at the Saints are at home. They're going to win. They rarely lose in the Dome. They're at home. The Redskins are not that good. That's it. Let's not overthink it.
No, agreed. And that being said, one last thing with the Redskins. This is not really a knock so much on Jay Gruden or Alex Smith, but when your best receiver is your tight end, Jordan Reed, it's not a good thing. It's not, because you can't spread the field, and especially with a team like New Orleans, where I know their defense hasn't been great this year, but Marcus Lattimore is an absolute stud, and I love watching him play defense. So, all right, you're in the Cheap Seats here on the Public House Media Network. Christian Heimall, John Lauder here with you, wrapping up shop on this Monday, as we do each and every week, whether it's good, whether it's bad. Somebody's got some mojo. John, who you got here, good or bad?
I'm going to give some good mojo to the city of Seattle. It's very nice to see the NBA back in Seattle for a preseason game. It was nice to see Kevin Durant rocking the Sean Kemp jersey, even though he's not the best supersonic ever. That's Gary Payton or Lenny Wilkins or
Detlef Schrempf.
Detlef Schrempf. I love a Schrempf cocktail, let me tell you. But Kemp was great, too, in his own right. I saw a picture on Twitter that almost stopped me in my tracks. It was a picture of Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Kevin Durant in Sonics jerseys. Okay, which would be like a first ballot in the What If Hall of Fame. Loved that picture. The NBA knows they need to get a team back to Seattle. I know there are lots of people behind the scenes working on it in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that comes back soon. They deserve that team. But it was nice to see the NBA there, even if it was just a preseason game. So that's my good mojo. A city that desperately deserves an NBA team back. At least they got a little bit of preseason basketball to enjoy.
If Seattle does come back, how awesome! Like, I mean, I know you said the what if, but like, wouldn't it just be poetic if Kevin Durant at least played 1 year in Seattle? Maybe it's the last year of his career, but like he goes back there for 1 year. Be awesome. Would be really, really cool. Second overall pick. There was at 2007? Question mark? I don't know. Anyway, so all right, I'm going to go bad mojo here. I started to lose my mind a little bit earlier in the first segment. I did lose my mind earlier in the first segment about the UFC, but and it's not directed at the baseball, at like the Red Sox, because don't get me wrong, I knew going into this series, and I was very fearful going into this series, that the Red Sox were going to lose to the Yankees, because I did not think that their starting pitching matched up deep enough to save that bullpen, which was atrocious. They escaped Game 1. Game 2 was very scary, very bad, because David Price now has the third highest ERA in the postseason in history, with a 6.03. He's 0-9 all-time in the postseason. The Red Sox have paid this dude way too much money, more than he deserves. He's got a player option. He gets to choose if he comes back in this offseason for a $31 million deal next year, $32 million the next 2 years after that. So you know he's signing up for $95 million to continue to be terrible in the postseason for the Boston Red Sox for the next 3 years. But my bad mojo is not at the Boston Red Sox, surprisingly enough, John. My bad mojo on this Monday goes to Major League Baseball and their promotion of these games. The fact that I understand that it's Red Sox-Yankees, it's the rivalry. I get it. It's two first-year managers with over 100 wins, and there are great storylines. But you know what? If you want to grow the game of baseball, the Cleveland Indians and the Houston Astros and the Milwaukee Brewers, the Colorado Rockies, the Atlanta Braves should be in prime time. Should be. It's not even close. You need to have guys like Francisco Lindor, Jose Ramirez, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, George Springer, Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna Jr., Christian Yelich, Lorenzo Cain, these guys, Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado, these guys that we don't get to see every single day because they play in smaller markets or they're not on the national stage as much as the Red Sox and Yankees are. We get to see them here in the postseason, and Major League Baseball has done a disservice to the game and to these players by putting, quote-unquote, the greatest rivalry in sports in prime time every single time just because it's the greatest rivalry in sports. That Red Sox-Yankees game on Saturday night should have been played at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Indians and Astros should have been played at 8 o'clock because it should have been Garrett Cole. It should have been Carlos Carrasco, pitching in prime time so that we can grow the game of baseball. It's getting better, but you and I touched on this a few months ago with the whole Mike Trout situation about Trout not really promoting himself that much because Major League Baseball doesn't promote him enough. Major League Baseball needs to do a better job of promoting its players, and it starts here in the postseason by giving these smaller market teams those big network viewing hours to be able to do so. And part of me is really excited that this Red Sox-Yankees series is in the divisional series because one of them goes away. And for the next 2 series, we're going to get to see these smaller market teams, these other great young players in Major League Baseball on a primetime level.
Well, you know what, Christian? It's very hard to market when you're concerned about the 5th batter that Walter Johnson faced in 1912 on a Tuesday afternoon when there was a lot of rain in the forecast and people were drinking tea. Because Major League Baseball is the worst. The worst! And you know I'm right. I don't care how much you like baseball. MLB is a disaster with this stuff. They care too much about the past. They don't care about the present, and they sure as hell do not care about the future. That's it. I'm done.
Nah, and you're not wrong, and that's the problem. That's the issue. So, oh my God, it just bothers me because literally, and we're gonna have a game 4, and it's probably gonna be the only game going on because you're most likely gonna get a sweep tonight with the Astros, and this Indians team, which is so talented and ran away with their Central because granted it was a terrible division, but they've got 5 of the best young players in the game. They've got one of the most talented and exciting pitching staffs in baseball. And nobody's going to watch them because they're not on prime time. Because they're playing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday.
Yeah. That's
absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal. Oh. All right, that's going to do it for us here in the Cheap Seats on this Monday, October 8th, 2018. Don't forget to head to our Facebook page, Cheap Seats by Public House Media. Vote on the poll question. More likely to happen, even though both probably will. Alabama wins the national championship or Tua wins the Heisman Trophy. John says Bama, I say Tua. Just a fun, interesting take. I'm going to be really intrigued to see what people think on this one, John, just because, I think a lot of people, believe both will happen, but when it comes down to it and you have to pick one, what are they going to do?
It's not easy.
That would be pretty exciting. So we'll be interested to see that. Don't forget to catch all of our poll questions there on the Facebook page. Catch up on past shows. Join our Pick'em League as well. Compete against guys like John and myself. A brand new show comes out every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So subscribe, rate, review. And, of course, head to thephmedia.com to get yourself some awesome show swag. Follow John on Twitter at JON_LAUDER. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Heimall, CHRISHEIMALL. Once again, as always, we appreciate you guys joining us here every single week. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow night to our Facebook page, Cheap Seats by Public House Media, for Tuesday Night Quarterback Live with Kayla Zenner. Excited to see what she has in store for us tomorrow night. Until then, for John, I'm Christian. So excited to have you guys up here in the Cheap Seats, presented by Squadcast.fm.